Good afternoon, everyone. So we have people coming in for our event this afternoon. It's my pleasure as the Dean of Rockefeller College of Public Affairs and Policy to be here for another episode of our Lunch and Learn series. Today, we're going to be talking about U.S.-China relations in the Trump 2.0 era. And we have, as you can see, a fantastic group of panelists and experts who are going to help us decode all of these things. I will, at this point, turn things over to my colleague, Gang Chen, from the Department of Public Administration and Policy, as he is going to run the show. But thank you again for coming to this very valuable and important event.
Right. Thank you, Julie. Thank you. This Lunch and Learn section, today we focus on a special topic, which is the shifting U.S.-China relations and their impact on our campus. This section is based on the background that the evolving U.S.-China relations has created increasing challenging environment for cross-country collaborations in research, for student recruitment from China, and some general academic exchanges with Chinese institutions. These challenges have impacted members of our community, and many have questions about how to better comply with the shifting regulations while continue with our productive research, collaborations, and normal academic exchanges that benefit Albany and the broader community. So some of the challenges that we discussed today may include visa issues for Chinese researchers and scholars, the increased scrutiny of the individuals involved in collaboration with Chinese nationals or Chinese institutions, and some restrictions on partnership and travel related to Chinese institutions. We have 4 panelists who have expertise and experience in these areas. First, we have Michael Elliott, the Director of International Student and Scholar Services. He has experience helping international students, visiting scholars, and exchange programs with visa issues and with funding. And next, we have Terrell Rabb, the Director of Research Security. In the Office of Regulatory and Research Compliance. And he and his office has experience helping the researchers on our campus better comply with the regulations and with the policies, and to mitigate the risks that involve with the cross-country collaboration. And next, we have Rongwei Yang, professor from the Department of Mathematics and Statistics at Albany. The Professor Yang is also the Vice President of the Federation of Asian Professor Associations. And he has experience with working and advocating for Asian professors on campus and in the broader community. And lastly, we have Jenny Yuan, Associate Professor in the Department of Information Sciences and Technology in the college CEHC. She is also the interim president on campus in the University at Albany Asian Coalition of Professionals. She is the interim president for the UAACP, which is a coalition for Asian professors in Albany. And she has experience with working with international students and scholars, and has also interacted with members of Asian professors on campus. So today I'm going to start with asking the panelists to introduce what they do, and their experience in the above areas that we mentioned, and followed by the question from the audience. We have also collected questions from the public and from the UAACP coalition. So we're going to, after the introduction, we're going to rotate one question from the questions that we collected from the public, and also one questions from the audience. Yeah. So we'll start by asking Michael. Mike?
Yes, hello. Again, I'm Mike Elliott. I'm the Director of International Student and Scholar Services. I've been in the field for over 30 years, working with both international students and scholars, worked at other Research One universities, and so have extensive experience with issues across the board in regard to incoming, visa, travel issues, as well as employment and other benefits that students and scholars receive while they're in the US.
Do you want to further share your experience helping students with visa and funding? I believe you say you have some slides to share. Michael, you are muted.
Yes, that would be wonderful. Let me bring that slide up. So what I did is I put together just 5 brief slides here to give an overview of what we've been dealing with in the field for the last several years, and then looking at some outlooks for this year and upcoming years, particularly into 2030. And that starts with what many of you may remember and have experience with in 2017, beginning with restrictions on visa issuance and international travel to certain countries, certain nationals, travel ban. You might remember our office was pretty engaged with helping and supporting students and scholars from those impacted countries. We invited in immigration attorneys from different firms with different knowledge and expertise in more narrowed areas to support these individuals. In 2019, of course, the pandemic hit, and also, implied some different travel restrictions and pauses of students, scholars, and other nationals, including Chinese nationals, entering the US. In 2020, according to Open Doors, our Chinese student population across the US nearly tripled from decades 2009 and 10 earlier, from 130,000 to 370,000. That was a great milestone at that point that everybody was celebrating. At the same time, in 2020, the presidential proclamation 10043 came out. You're probably familiar with this, on suspension of entry as non-immigrants of certain students and researchers from People's Republic of China. This is retained into the Biden administration and continues forward. And again, it is more specific to graduate students, mainly PhD students in certain research areas, and of course, scholars in different research areas. I just need to move, okay. Let's see, I'll move that up there. At the same time, you probably are aware in 2020 of the closures of the US consulate in Chengdu and the Chinese consulate in Houston. International relations have been challenged from these points forward. We also, in 2021, had the closure of the Confucius Institute on our campus. And I'll talk a little bit more about Confucius Institutes in the next slide here. In 2022, F1 visa issuance to Chinese students declines by over 50% in the first half of the year across the US in higher education institutions. So this was another milestone, unfortunately not a positive one on the Chinese student front. In 2023, by this year, all SUNY Confucius institutes closed, with a rationale for impact on federal grants and contracts, like DoD, for example. And at this same time, according to the GAO, in 2023, Confucius Institute's operations across the US went from 100 in 2019 to less than 5 currently. Again, for the same reasons. Also, in 2024, just this past year, we were excited to announce that Albany hit a record number of international students on our campus. At the same time that more than a dozen Chinese graduate students in the US were denied major research from major research in universities in the US, denied entry back into the US. This was an alarming action that occurred, and it's perhaps one we will see again. It's very possible. That was you may have remembered that in the news, the national news. So back to our population. While we hit that record, we unfortunately saw our Chinese student and scholar population dropping. Now, if you look at the graphs here in 2019, we had over 600 Chinese students enrolled at Albany, but because of the pandemic and international relations between our countries, we've seen a decline ever since, to 2024 with less than 200 Chinese students on campus. As for scholars, you see the same kind of trend moving downward. But when we're looking at the outlooks in the next slides, we're hoping to see some building back up of those populations. But first, let's look at national policy in 2025. The current executive orders and actions impacting international students and scholars in general start off with the additional measures to combat anti-Semitism. I bring this one up because it does have a component that points to aliens or non-immigrants, or could be immigrant intent individuals, and involvement in campus protests. You've seen this in the news, I believe, and actually probably just recently some actions being taken place at Columbia University. We've got enhanced screening and vetting of foreign nationals. That's Executive Order 14161, where we are seeing perhaps some increases in vetting, both at the Department of State level, the consular level, and CBP, that's the port of entry, where individuals are entering our country. We could see that also increasing over time in terms of what they call extreme vetting, and perhaps fewer entries into the US and fewer visas across the board being issued. F1 visas I'm talking about. And then a couple more points here. Possible resurrection of the travel ban you may have seen in the news. That's the 2.0 from 2017. There's no indication that China would be part of that list, but I mention it because of its overall impact. A couple more things. According to Reuters, Reuters, I'm sorry, 2020-25, the US is looking to cut its size of diplomatic mission in China by 10%. And then finally, the presidential proclamation, as I mentioned earlier, that points to China researchers, both students and scholars, is set to continue forward. It is still in effect. Okay, finally, that brings us to a couple more last slides on outlook for Chinese student mobility. According to the LA Times last month, we're looking at a slowing of job opportunities in China, which have impacted some families to be still looking at sending their students to the US and other locations abroad based on competitiveness of the job market. Bringing back higher education and higher degrees helps in that competitiveness. China remains a top source of international students in California, and New York is a close second in the US in 2022 and 23. That says something about how New York may want to situate itself to continue that growth. It has a vested interest in doing so. Safety at US universities still a concern for some families and students in China, while families are still considering and choosing alternative destinations like Canada, Australia, and countries in Asia. So let me finish by just mentioning our current enrolled Chinese student population at UAlbany is 122 graduate and 34 undergraduate, which is 156. This is currently in spring semester. The other data I gave you in the last slide was based on fall of those subsequent years from 2019. Now, in terms of applications, those are up currently this month for Chinese prospective students by 15 to 20%, same time last year. While for grad applications, they're up slightly over this time last year. So we do have some things to be looking forward to, both at the university and nationwide for Chinese student and hopefully scholar growth. Finally, I just give you some organizations of interest contacts. We did have a question on this. So I did want to mention, if you have students and scholars with concerns and questions about their immigration status and how different policies in the US may affect that, please refer them to our office so we can talk to them individually. The UAlbany Chinese Student and Scholar Association is a campus organization that could be a place where you could potentially contact students and scholars from China for different reasons like research collaborations. Another place you can go for research collaboration interest, while it's not China focused, it is the Capital District Postdoc Association. It was started by one of our own international scholars on campus. They're mainly targeting and inviting into their organization J1, OPT, and other researchers, typically research scientists and research associates that could be here 1 year or more. That's typical. And I'm happy to give any more information during our panel that you would like. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Michael, for sharing the information and the data. And thanks for the, you can stop sharing your screen now, Michael. Yeah, thank you for the work that you and your office have done. So now let's turn to Terrell, the Director of the Office of Regulatory and Research Compliance. So can you talk a little bit about what your office does and your experience with helping researchers on campus with the regulations on research oversight funding and on collaboration? So, Terrell.
Absolutely. Happy to talk to researchers at any time. You know, the office is here to help all of our researchers, you know, plan and conduct their research in accordance with, you know, all regulations and that kind of govern the activity. So a little bit of background, I've been with the office for about 14 years, working with researchers on various aspects of research and regulatory affairs, compliance, you know, human subjects, animal use. As Director of Research Security, my focus now is on export controls, data use, agreements, collaborations, conflict of interest management, and general research security risk management. And so that's a fairly broad area. You know, I really appreciate the detail in Michael's presentation. Yeah, and what my office sees, what, you know, in a lot of the regulations is it's specifically targeted institutions where there may be additional concerns that we need to manage, or where collaborations may be prohibited because they've been identified as engaging in problematic activity. And so my office is really here to help folks navigate and get appropriate documentation of our due diligence to meet all of our obligations. What I'm also going to say is if folks have questions about exports, potential conflicts, potential collaborations, they can feel free to reach out to the office at orrc@albany.edu at any time. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. So it's good to hear from both Michael and Terrell to know that on campus we have offices, we have the facility to support the students, these international programs, and researchers would like to keep doing research with some international collaboration while we still comply with these regulations and to mitigate the risks. So now I'd like to invite Rongwei to talk about, to share his experience on the international, working with international students and scholars. Rongwei.
Okay, thank you. First, I would like to thank the Rockefeller College for organizing this webinar. It's my pleasure to join the other distinguished panelists in this timely and a meaningful conversation. So let me start by mentioning a key federal policy. In January 14, 2021, the White House published the National Security Presidential Memorandum 33, often widely known as the NSPM 33. In the introduction part of this memorandum, it emphasized two aspects and the goals for this memorandum. The first is that the open and collaborative nature of the U.S. research and development underpins America's innovation, science and technology leadership, economic competitiveness, and national security. And the second, the country needs to take actions to strengthen protections of government-sponsored R&D against foreign government interference and exploitation. Now, while implementing this memorandum has encountered several issues, and in January 2022, which is a year later after the announcement of this memorandum, the White House Office of Science and Technology Policy, known as the OSTP, issued the NSPM 33 implementation guidance. And there are three main goals for this guidance. A is to protect America's security and openness. And B is to be clear so that well-intended researchers can easily and properly comply with NSPN 33. And C, importantly, that it mentioned that to ensure that this policy do not feel xenophobia or prejudice. Now come to the university level. It's in fact a long-term policy of Albany to promote collaboration in research and education with China and other nations. Since I joined Albany in 2002, Albany has had 4 presidents, Kermit Hall, George Phillips, and Robert Johns, and our current president, Javier Rodriguez, all of whom have been strong advocates of this vision. Today, Albany has partnership with 20 Chinese institutions, the highest number by far among its international collaborations. This policy has yielded tangible benefits for the university. So let me mention 3 of them. Now, as Michael's statistics show that at peak times, we had over 600 students from China, contributing over 24 million a year in tuition and fees. This number declined significantly in recent years due to the pandemic and ongoing political uncertainties. I'm happy to see that the numbers is popping up in the recent application cycle. A substantial number of well-trained students from China have joined our research programs, graduate programs, and research teams, strengthening our research projects, funding opportunities, and overall productivity. The majority of the PhDs from China in the US at Albany and other US institutions choose to stay, in fact, and contribute to the US leadership in science and technology. Now, you might be wondering why this is the case. Now, the living standard in China is probably comparative, if not more, higher than the US now. So if you say that, oh, there's a living standard difference where the US has an advantage, this is no longer the case. But then the question is why the Chinese PhDs choose to stay in the US. Well, one main reason is that their research network is built in the US. So it's easier for them to get connected to and do publications and the collaborations in the US. So now, to offer an example, in 2023 and 2024 academic year, I chaired our department's research committee for 2 tenure track and 1 tenured positions in data science and artificial intelligence. We find that more than 1/3 of applicants have Chinese names. So now in conclusion, this long-term policy has been quite successful. So given the current political landscape, we hope that the university have regulations in place to safeguard the academic freedom of its faculty while also mitigating potential risks. Thank you.
Thank you, Rongwei, for sharing all the thoughts on this the benefits of continuing the collaboration internationally with China. So now I want to turn to Jenny to speak about her own experience with international collaboration with China.
Thank you,
Jenny?
John. I would like to take this opportunity to thank Rockefeller College for co-sponsoring this event with the university at Albany, Asian Coalition of Professionals, UAACP. As the interim president of UAACP, I'd like to start with a brief introduction to our association. UAACP is an association of faculty and staff at the University at Albany, established on May 14, 2021. The coalition is open to all campus colleagues, regardless of cultural background. Our goal is to promote career development, enrich social life, and safeguard the rights of our members. Our mission is to foster intellectual and professional interactions among its members and to promote the career and leadership advancement of its members at UAlbany, to serve as a support network and to promote and protect the rights and interests of its members, to advocate for its members as a representative body for goodness of UAlbany and community at large, to promote academic and cultural exchange between UAlbany and other institutions domestically and internationally, and to advance UAlbany's academic excellence and internationalization, to promote diversity and inclusion, and to advocate against discrimination and social injustice. In UAACP, we organize social events and public newsletters regularly, and we have also worked to create effective communication channels for UAlbany faculty and staff. Additionally, we host an interdisciplinary forum to highlight our members' intellectual and academic contributions while promoting interdisciplinary exchanges and potential research and funding collaborations. This forum covers topics of broad cross-disciplinary significance, such as climate change, pandemics, machine learning, and etc. Each event features panel presentations and discussions with members from different disciplines addressing a common theme. Additionally, we host annual events in May to celebrate AAPI Heritage Month. Stay tuned for more information and please join us in celebrating AAPI Heritage in May. I would also like to share my personal experience here. I have been collaborating with students from diverse backgrounds during the past years in the university. Last year, our lab hosted a visiting scholar from a prestigious university in China who is a doctoral student. When she joined the lab, she told me she could hardly believe she had received a visa to the United States, as many of her classmates had been denied in previous years. Here, I'm pleased to share that she was a wonderful addition to our research team. She completed all her tasks with high quality and on time. Just last week, a research article we co-authored was accepted by a highly regarded journal. She returned to China at the end of last year, but I recently introduced her to another professor at a different university in the United States, for whom she is now working remotely. That professor was also very impressed with her performance. As Dr. Yang mentioned, the university greatly benefits from these types of collaborations, as visiting scholars like her contribute to the strength of our research projects, expand funding opportunities, and enhance overall productivity. Thank you.
Thank you, Jenny. So now we have hear from the panelists. I think their presentation and discussion shows both the benefits of continuing this research collaboration, getting international students and visiting scholars, and also the challenges that we're facing. And they each represent an office or a group that are on campus that will be able to provide some support and to the community, to this community. So we have an audience. We have in total 38 participants. So this would be a good opportunity for those in the audience to ask questions to these panelists. So I'm going to solicit one question from the audience, and also rotate with to some questions that we previously have collected. So people in the audience, feel free to raise your hand, turn on your mic to ask questions to these panelists. All right. So I'm going to start. We're going to start with the questions the list of questions that we have previously collected, and then we'll go back to the audience to see if they have any questions. So the first question is more overall. So, what is the current SUNY Albany policy regarding collaboration with colleagues in China? What's the current policy regarding collaboration with colleagues in China? Maybe Terrell, do you want to respond to this question?
To start the conversation on that. So the current policy is the same as what's been stated before. We are still open to collaborations. Collaborations are important to advance science, and absolutely wherever folks are located, including China, for those mutually beneficial collaborations, we are absolutely in favor of them. That being said, we are beginning the process of undertaking more stringent due diligence to ensure that those collaborations are mutually beneficial, that we do not run afoul of any restricted party lists or organizations that have been identified as engaging in problematic activity. So it's something my office is engaging particularly on, and we're also, looking to understand, getting the institution to buy in and understand that with the importance of these collaborations, there are risks, but ultimately, if we're going to be a leading world-class institution, we're going to have to accept an appropriate level of risk, and to engage with partners around the world, whether they're in China, whether they're in Russia, whether they're other entities in the U.S. A lot of what folks are talking about with SPM requirements comes a lot down to insider threat, and these threats are irrespective of nationalities. They are irrespective of where folks work. It's opportunity. It's where there's concerns not with people but with governments, with organizations that have set up stated policies or taken actions against the national interests of the country, against standard science policies of openness and sharing.
Well, thank you, Terrell. So you have mentioned the due diligence to avoid some potential risks. So what's the process like if before beginning with some collaboration with probably like a scholar from a Chinese institution? What would be the process to make sure that we have execute this due diligence?
So certainly, making sure, I can give a couple like very broad guardrails, and then a lot of the answer is going to be reach out to the office. With that, what we can't engage in are those activities where we might benefit a foreign military. Absolutely for China, but that's any foreign military that's going that is adversarial. Russia, North Korea, Iran. There are specific lists. They get updated relatively frequently. So I would not want to point folks to anything specifically, other than say, please reach out to the office. We're happy to run a quick search of the institution and let you know if it appears on any of the lists. The main ones to be concerned with would be the Department of Defense list of institutions engaging in problematic activity. That list came out of a requirement of CHIPS and Science, as well as a larger aligned foreign talent recruitment program regulations and law. Also the recent Congress's recent actions with ByteDance, specifically named that company. And then other lists for restricted parties, whether they're from the Bureau of Industry and Security, or I'm receiving exports. General Services Administration is being debarred from receiving federal funds. The Office of Foreign Asset Control from receiving any funds from the U.S. for certain activities. Generally, that's going to be in drug trafficking, terrorist actions, and other sanctions programs. China is not a unilaterally sanctioned destination. Now, we have many, beneficial, not only academic, but economic partnerships with companies in China. And so it's really a case by case.
Great.
The one denial, policy of denial that exists is on military goods for China, which we really don't have a lot here.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Terrell. It's important for the audience to know that your office can support with us with setting up these discoveries. I recently have worked on Terrell to resolve a potential concern with a visiting scholar. So that's really helpful. We have a question from the audience in the chat. Are there any specific opportunities for SUNY Albany graduate students to work with the students in China on research projects? And if so, what are they called and what areas of study do they cover? This question might be best answered by Michael, your office. Are you aware of any opportunities for the graduate students to work with Chinese students in China? We do have some partnership with Chinese universities and some exchange programs, right?
Yeah, so it depends from which perspective you're looking to do that collaboration, whether as a student or a faculty member or a scholar. Now, ISSS mainly works with individuals that are entering the US to do studies or research, not necessarily the other way around, but SIGS does work with Ed Abroad and research abroad in general, like Fulbrights, for example, will support faculty who are engaged in an application like that. But in regard to collaborating with those that are already in the US, we've of course got our departments, academic departments, which oversee the research aspects of what these students and scholars are doing, mainly graduate PhD level students. But I also mentioned in my presentation a couple of other organizations that you could think about reaching out to make those kinds of connections. Other than that, our office, ISSS, doesn't necessarily connect individuals over to those partner institutions, but we do have directors of education abroad and global international partnerships in our center that could certainly probably be of assistance with that. So feel free to reach out to me and I can connect you to those individuals.
Yeah, thank you. So Michael mentioned CES. So this is the Center for International Education and Global Strategy at U Albany, and I put that website in the chat. So they have some opportunities there as well. So So I'm going to get one question from the public. So this is question: what is the policy for faculty to visit Chinese universities to give seminars and discuss potential collaboration? Terrell, do you want to respond, or Michael, you want to respond to this question?
I can go first. So folks are still welcome to have talks, however, caution needs to be taken. With any kind of travel, it's going to depend also on the topic. The topics of most concern where the Chinese government is most looking to acquire information inappropriately is around artificial intelligence, biotechnologies, drones, automated systems, quantum computing, and semiconductor development. Those are going to be the areas of highest risk. Other areas, in basic science, they're not without risk, but certainly there's more possibilities there. The other thing I would caution folks is knowing who you're going to talk to. Again, happy to help with screening and identifying any organizations that have already they've been identified as engaging in problematic or restricted activities, as well as looking into providing information on travel and cybersecurity. Generally, if you're taking a device that can be wiped before it's reconnected, as well as only taking what is absolutely necessary for the trip, minimizing the potential for information to be inappropriately obtained.
Thank you, Terrell. This is a question that we got from the UAACP group. I know that Jenny and Rongwei also have some experience visiting Chinese universities. I think, Jenny, do you want to follow up on this to see whether do you think that Terrell provide enough information on this on the policy for visiting Chinese universities, Jenny?
Terrell, I think the information is very helpful. I have a follow-up question. You mentioned about several areas which should be cautioned, right? For example, artificial intelligence, biotechnology, drone, semiconductor related. What about, so would you, to follow, I believe every member in UAACP would like to comply with all the guidance and provided by the university. So if they got a request from a Chinese institution to teach a course or give a talk, should we advise them to contact you or your group to do the first screening about that?
Yeah, we're happy to talk to anyone who gets a request, particularly if they don't know the collaborator or the individual before the request is made. To look at that, and generally speaking, if information is already in the public domain, that's going to be much easier to be able to share, even if it's in artificial intelligence or semiconductor. What is a particular concern is the development and information that's not yet in the public domain. We want to make sure 99.9% of the research we engage here is fundamental. We absolutely intend to release that research. We want to do it on our terms and in a way that protects our faculty and our students and their investments of time, funds, everything else. So yes, if folks get collaboration requests, happy to talk through those with the individuals and be able to identify considerations they may they may need to address beforehand, as well as, questions back to the potential collaborators, to get certain, appropriate levels of assurance, that stuff is going to be used appropriately. The other thing I will say is anytime folks are looking to engage with a collaborator, you want to set up a data management plan, if not have a data use agreement or other written document kind of outlining what the obligations of each party are going to be. And that would protects the intellectual property you and the institution develop here as well. And I don't personally work with intellectual property. That's our Office of Tech Transfer, but I work closely with the office and can connect people and make sure that aspect is adequately protected.
Thank you.
Right. Thank you. Thank you, Terrell. Michael?
Yes, I'll just add on to that in terms of SIGs and the partnerships here can work very similarly to our incoming scholars who already have some kind of connection through a conference or some other activity where the individuals already know each other, and as the scholars coming in, they're already collaborating at some degree. So it would probably work similarly on the other side. And because we have partnerships, perhaps looking into some of those and seeing if any of your interests may already be available in those partnerships. The second piece is in terms of travel and our travel database. If you do end up, doing a collaboration abroad, you'd want to make sure to check in with our office, SIGs Center, and just register in that database and make sure you have the proper insurance, health insurance that aligns with that.
All right, thank you, Michael. That's very helpful. So we have one more question from the audience. It's from the North Gulf about the demands and concern of the students from China. So what do you think will happen with demands by Chinese students for admission to US universities, given the current political climate? Is it possible that some students might differentiate based on what happened at the state level? Will some states more collaborate with the Trump administration, and some states don't collaborate Trump? Would that make a difference? So what do you see? Maybe Michael?
Well, I'll start off with still some level of uncertainty. We can point back to these policies that I mentioned. One that still is existing, and that's that 10.043 on the entry of certain Chinese students and researchers. And then the possibility that we will see a decline in mission staff across the consulates in China. So, if you remember back to the pandemic and some of the news there and the number of closures and emergency operations taking place, we saw a decline in visa issuance. And so that has been climbing up, but then we're moving into 2025, where, again, we have some potentials of more challenges in that front. Now, our office is here to assist both faculty, staff, and our students and scholars in this area. And a lot of it comes down to individual collaboration, individual work with those people, because depending on their areas of study, other background issues, they may be going through just regular vetting that normally happens, and then we're adding this extreme vetting that's coming to play. And that can impact individuals, of course, not only in China, but across the world as we see more of these policies play out. So I can't really say a lot more than that specifically, except that we are seeing a tick up in applications compared to this time of year. It just comes down again to, what was mentioned earlier, how many of those individuals are going to have challenges with the visa acquisition process.
Yeah, I think these challenges in terms of visa, I think that doesn't vary by state. It's all of us will feel the impact in terms of recruiting students or visiting scholars from China. The political climate may still vary by state. We have heard from students we talked with, that probably in terms of personal security issues, in terms of concerns about discrimination and hostile environment, I think that kind of environment and climate that's probably will vary by states. I think we in Albany we have the advantage of being in the New York State, which adds a little bit of probably for students who have more confidence in the diversity culture here and diversity and inclusion. Rongwei and Jenny, do you want to speak on this point about how with the New York State, Albany still remain to be visiting scholars or from China or students from China's interest?
Yeah, I can add a little bit to this conversation. I currently have a postdoc visiting me from China, but he's in pure mathematics. But on the other hand, there is a PhD student based in China, and he wants to come and study here. And his visa application was declined. So you kind of have a mixed situations here.
Yes, Jenny.
I think I mentioned about the Chinese scholar who is currently still a doctoral student in a very good Chinese university, and who we accommodated in the lab last year. And I think she performed very well. But before this student came, I also there was several students who contacted me to try to come to the lab. We provided the letter, but they couldn't get the visa to come over. So for me, that during the past years, from pandemic until now, this student was the only one who was successfully received the visa to USA. So this, I don't know if this situation will last longer from now until when, but this might be something that we hope that the UACP and the Chinese scholars are hope to be able to solve at the university level, hopefully, or the state level, and in the near future.
Thank you all of you to share your experience. I think when we recruit students from China, it's actually helpful to tell them, to assure them that New York State and Albany will still have this commitment for internationalization, for diversity, for inclusion, for anti-discrimination. And today's event is a signal as a way to show that we have offices and organizations, groups on campus who share this value that we continue to encourage collaboration and scholarly exchanges. And we also have these resources to support you. So I hope that this information is good for the audience. We are not able to get to all the questions that we collect from the public. I'm going to ask the panelists to put your email address in the chat. So for the audience that have further questions, they know how to reach you to get additional information and support. So thank you very much once again to all the panelists for spending time and sharing information with us. And the next section, the next lunch and learn section is titled "When Next for Health Policy Reform Implication for Trump 2.0 for Health Policy in New York State," which will take place Monday, March 31st at noon via Zoom. And Professor Ashley Fox from the Department of Public Administration and Policy will present the research. Thank you very much to the panelists, and thank you the audience for attending today's lunch and learn event.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a
Thanks,
great day.
everyone.